Hi there, my name is Ron Rogers, and this presentation is titled Making Money with Rental Properties. Buying a 110 plus year old house has its issues. And, I really didn't fully realize what sort of maintenance issues you would have on buying a property this old. At the time, I had never bought a property that was more than a few decades old. And this one proved kind of interesting. Now it's a nice property, and the renters like it, and they take good care of it, and they enjoy doing nice little landscaping things. On the left there with the blue arrow, one of the aspects of an older house like this, it has some nice little details, and that's a very nice leaded glass inlay on the front picture window there. It gives it a lot of nice character. And it also has other aspects. It's got a nice little bump out there on a bay window. I kind of wonder about the history of this property. Being this old, it's got to have quite a few tales to tell. But there was a lot of work involved in this house. I replaced every single window, virtually all the doors. And one thing interesting about doors in a house like this, they're not the standard size of our doors today. So I had to do quite a bit of creative blocking and stuff to put in new doors that, at least for when this house was built, the newer doors are shorter, actually, which was kind of interesting. And in the process, we had a hailstorm, and so for just paying the deductible, insurance covered the rest. I got new siding and a new roof. And I'm glad I didn't have to work on that roof because that is a very steep roof. In fact, they had an interesting time finding somebody who would actually do the work on it because it's 2 floors up and it is steep. It's interesting. When they removed the old vinyl siding, you could see the original cladding of the house underneath, and it's a stone foundation down there. Now, an interesting thing about a house this old is the 2x4s used for framing are actually 2 inches by 4 inches, not the standard 2x4, as it were, that's 1 3/4 by 3.5. These things are actually 2 by 4 inches, which is quite an eye opener there. So when I was doing any repair work in there, I had to cut down a 2x6 at least to have the 4 inch depth. Because a normal 2x4, you're coming up short. And of course, you see the plaster lath construction there. That's the lath is the little boards they put up there. Then they trowel the plaster on top of it. And a plaster wall is a nice wall, but they develop cracks over the years when the house settles, and people like to put up pictures, and you put a nail in plaster and it doesn't go so well. That's why you have those picture rails at the top of the walls where you hang a line down to hang pictures, but most renters don't know about that, so they drive a nail in the wall. So I end up replacing the plaster wall with your standard drywall, which works a lot better, and it takes care of the cracks that can develop. But I tell you, taking care of that drywall, that plaster, excuse me, is a mess. You thought drywall was a mess, plaster is even worse. And of course, it had a lot of the old original plumbing, and I had to get rid of that to modernize it. And I was thinking of, jokingly, I mentioned this in another presentation, of starting a rehab aerobics course where you could lose weight and get into shape by rehabbing a house. And behind me there, that's a reflection in the mirror, there's a picture of the steel bathtub that normally the bathtubs are cast iron. You can take them out with a sledgehammer, which is really good for anger management. It's a lot of fun, actually. But this was a metal bathtub, and I had to take and saw it with my Sawzall and remove it. Now, another aspect about a house this old is the wiring, and you talk about interesting wiring. You can have what's known as tube and knob, where you have essentially bare wires running. And at some point, this was later updated to Romax, but the Romax had just kind of a fabric cloth sheathing. And on some of these wires, I could actually put my hand around the sheathing, and actually I'd get a tingle because they had absorbed so much moisture. They were no longer insulating. Well, that wire's gone. It's been rewired properly with Romex and conduit where appropriate. Now, another aspect is the plumbing. Okay, you get this old cast iron plumbing, and I used to think this was great stuff. Well, it's not. It can flake off on the inside and cause just all sorts of issue because those metal flakes tend to catch things in the drain, and then it plugs it up, and this is just not fun stuff. And using the cast iron pipe for water. Well, when I bought this house, it had the cast iron plumbing for the water piping, and what I did was I had a tenant that was complaining that the sinks the faucets were clogging. So I came up there and I took off the little filter and I could see little metal particles in there. And I looked at that and then I ran it a little bit and there was the piping had started to deteriorating and pieces of metal were coming off into the water stream and it was being caught in the filter, but the water was taking on a little bit of a brown tint. And I said, hey, why didn't you guys tell me about this earlier? This is terrible. Nobody should put up with water like this. Well, most of them use bottled water anyway, but I'm going, hey, this is bad. I had a few of these replumbing people come in and they wanted just extraordinary prices. But fortunately, I had a very good plumber and it's not cheap at all, but he did it for about half the price that the other companies were quoting for doing PVC, and he did it in copper and just did a great job. And I've got a continuous water heater in there, so you don't have to worry about the continuous flow water heater. So you don't have to worry about running the water running out of hot water as you were taking a shower. And of course, this is the fun. I redid the lower room there, took down the plaster lath and put up drywall. Now in a house like this, you got a lot of work involved, and the previous house was a bit dated. Like I said, I replaced all the windows and they had the weight in the walls, the counterweighted ropes, and upgraded the appliances, redid the flooring. And that's a lot of work. Putting in new cabinets, cutting the flooring, doing the work for the windows. There's some of the cabinets that went in the kitchen there. You see the windows are masked off because I spray painted the interior, which when you're doing that, that's a lot easier than just rolling it. And of course, there is a lot of flooring to put in. And this is the stairways that go up to the upper level apartment. And like I mentioned, these doors are non-standard, and I kept a few of the old doors, but I pretty much had to replace virtually all of them because they were just in bad shape. And there again is getting the floor up to speed in the living room. And there's the kitchen of the upstairs unit. Now, I had two units. I had one upstairs and one downstairs. This is a picture of the upstairs unit on the left and the downstairs unit on the right. And probably the only thing I still have to do is I probably should upgrade the cabins upstairs. Now here's the upstairs unit again, the kitchen there. And I've got kind of a funny story. I had pretty good renters in there. No real issues. I've had good renters. But I had a situation where I had a downstairs renter. It was a man and a woman, and the woman was dying of cancer. And the upstairs renters had moved out, and their son wanted to come and rent the upstairs unit to be close to his mother and father. And I thought, well, actually his mother and his stepfather. And I thought, well, that's nice. And I checked his credit, and it came back fine. So I mentioned to the downstairs people that, hey, I was going to rent the upstairs unit to your son because, he wanted to be near his mom when she was, in the last stages of her life. And both the mother and the father said, you do not want to rent to him. And I said, well, I already told him I'd rent to him. His credit was good. I thought you'd be happy. And they said, no, you will regret renting to him. Well, guess what? They were right. It was a bit of disaster. He owed me rent. And I did very much regret renting to that individual. And the downstairs kitchen there and the bathroom, I upgraded the bathroom. And there is the property. It's a nice duplex. I've had good renters. This one has worked out well. My biggest challenge, of course, as I mentioned, was just the fact that it was older and you just had to upgrade. Of course, it's had I don't know how many new furnaces in it. Probably was well, for looking at the way it was structured, it at one time they heated it by coal, but of course we're up to gas furnaces now and gas heat, and the electrical has been updated, the plumbing has been updated, all the windows have been updated, virtually all the doors, just a few bedroom doors upstairs I've kept because they were decent, but it's been all upgraded, and it's working well now as a house and as a duplex for rental. And I'm not sure how long I want to keep it. I want to eventually retire again, but good tenants, it's good, and I don't have to do too much work on it to keep it going. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this little installation of rental homes. Thanks for watching.